Through the lens, New York City stands in a class of its own. But despite its collection of world-class buildings and ever-changing cast of characters, America's most photogenic city, and the state that lays claim to it, has in recent years emerged as an even more attractive place for film and television crews to point their cameras. Arriving in 2004, and having evolved ever since, the state's $420 million annual film and production tax incentive program gives the Empire State the distinction as the country's most generous. While nearly 40 other states offer their own unique blend of film incentive plans, dollar for dollar, New York continues to tower over the nearest competitor by nearly $100 million, resulting in nothing short of a boom for film and television production.
In 2013, 192 films were shot in New York City. This year, 242 films shot in New York City. Last year we saw that one production alone spent $630,000 on food services. Another production spent $365,000 on wardrobe, dry cleaning, etc.
According to Boston Consulting Group's Tim Nolan, the tax-induced production uptick has not only tripled the amount spent on production in New York each year, but keeps 130,000 full-time film and television production jobs in the state.
The film and television production part of the business is about $7 billion. Pre-tax credit, but we're thinking 2002, actually the business was between $1 and $2 billion. It's a little volatile depending on what productions come through. But it's actually tripled in the last 15 years.
Covering up to 30% of qualifying production costs means anyone from an independent producer to multi-billion-dollar valued Vice Media can apply for what in effect becomes cash payments by the state for credit recipients. In Vice's case, this includes a $6.5 million credit for its new facility in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. But New York's current program is not without critics, some citing lower spending on other state services or the disproportionate payout to New York City-based productions. A 2013 report prepared for the New York State Reform and Fairness Commission, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo's commission established to examine the state's complex tax code, found the film tax activity is not large enough to cause the credit to pay for itself, and it would take implausible assumptions to reach that conclusion. The report also notes that given the ongoing incentive competition between states, it likely will take more and more credit spending to maintain this activity.
The states are constantly in competition with one another to try and pull productions, because productions are very fast moving. So they will show up here for 60, 90 days, inject a lot of money into the economy, and then they disappear. So you have to be competitive on that level.
Learning the state-by-state tax incentive game has become an integral part of independent producer Andrew Corkin's approach to production.
So once we've narrowed down creatively based on the script what states or what countries or where in the world we could be shooting, is to have that initial conversation with the film commission to determine, okay, what can you do for us?
Corkin first came to New York to attend NYU and found early success as a co-producer for the critically acclaimed film Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene.
Ultimately, yeah, I want to stay here, but it really is contingent on where the bang for the buck exists. Because tomorrow, if something were to happen and that the credit were to lapse in 2019, it would be very difficult for me to convince an investor to put a film in New York when there are similar aesthetic-looking states that offer a credit or a rebate that I could say, listen, this is soft money against the equity that ultimately would make up for some of the film. Because now more than ever, we want to make sure that the actual recoupable net cost of a film is kept as low, because distributors are paying less and less.
While the incentives give filmmakers like Andrew some semblance of fundraising and production mobility, for Silvercup Studios, the program means they can expand.
It's really increased our business significantly, so much so that we're making the commitment to spend another $35 million of our own capital to expand up to the Bronx.
What started with a Cool Whip commercial in 1983, Silvercup Studios has in recent years become one of the city's premier production facilities, benefiting not only from the increased demand for shooting space, but the simultaneous expansion of long-form television production coming to the city.
TV shows like Sex and the City and Sopranos come along, which really changed a lot of the cable market and helped save HBO. And then when the tax credits were created in 2004, it opened the eyes to a lot of the executives who were financing TV or film.
And it seems no one opened their eyes as much as HBO. With over $91 million in tax credits, HBO was the single largest recipient of New York State tax credits between 2011 and 2013, with such programs as Girls and Boardwalk Empire taking advantage of the break.
We looked at a lot of the other tax credits that were going on in Louisiana, the ones that happened in Michigan, and many of them I think were where they went wrong, where we have gone right. Our tax credit just supports a credit to the production companies, not to me, not to the production companies, not to the individuals, for what's called the blue collar or the below the line workers. So it's the carpenters, the electricians, the scenics, the artists, the lumber companies, the paint companies. So the writers, producers, directors, the talent, the actors none of that gets allocated to their salaries. So if you're getting paid $10 million or $20 million or $30 million for it to be Tom Cruise, there's no tax credit for that. It is just for all the below the line blue collar workers.
But this is a program that has been continually retooled, expanded in 2006, 2010, and in 2013 to include post-production. This past April, New York State Assemblymember Ellen Jaffe introduced a bill to expand the credit to include writers' salaries and fees into the production credit. The bill has yet to reach a vote.
Keeping the financial industries here in New York when it was competing with London is really important. Keeping the entertainment industries we compete with not only California but the rest of the world is really important because the people in the entertainment industry, including all the blue-collar workers here, when they're being employed, they spend a lot of money on their home, their housing, their food, and all the other things, much more than most other manufacturing industries or anything else like that. So it's a great multiplier and helps really grow the state's economy.
Not all states see it this way, as some have started opting out of the incentive game. New Jersey and North Carolina let their incentives expire at the beginning of the year, while Louisiana, the state who actually started the entire race, placed a $180 million cap on their program. This after spending $308 million during the last fiscal year. But as some tax doors close, the others remain open, essentially underlining the fundamental question behind the entire effort. Just how long and how far will a state need to go in order to remain competitive? New York is well out in front, but what happens after the current incentive plan ends in 2019?
We have a job of building the economy here in New York. This is an important industry for New York State. This is in our sweet spot in a lot of ways. We have a real cluster economy around this industry in the state, and so I'm optimistic that we'll stay committed to it and that New York State will be a great place for this industry over the long haul.
Christopher Booker, Financial Times, New York.